A lot goes into buying a home. You have to save up for a down payment, decide on a lender, and fill out a bunch of paperwork. Oh, and after that, you have to decide what you want to buy and where. The last thing you need is to be lied to. So in this video, we're shutting down the top 3 lies about buying a home in 2023. Oh, and stick around to the end because I'm going to tell you the one thing you should never do when you're in the middle of buying a house. Well, hello, this is Wendy Pennell, and today we're busting out 3 lies you've been told over and over again when it comes to buying a home. Starting out with lie number 1, you should marry the house and date the rate. Now, how many times have we heard this phrase, right? Basically, it means you're committing to a lifelong, long-term relationship with the house you love, but you can dump the interest rate when you refinance. Well, that doesn't actually sound too bad. Where's the lie? We're looking at a 2-in-1 here. This phrase makes 2 assumptions that are not always true. The first is that the entire premise assumes interest rates will always come down. Now, right now, the market does seem to be indicating that rates will be going down. But at the end of the day, this is out of your control. So instead of making that dangerous assumption, evaluate your relationship with the house first. Here's the second lie within the phrase. You should always marry your house. Well, have you ever heard of the equity game? Sure, we'd all love to have our first house be the perfect home for the rest of our lives, but in reality, that's almost never the case. Most first-time home buyers can barely afford a home at all in this market, much less their dream home. The equity game allows you to buy a small first-time home, build equity, then sell and move on to something bigger and better. And besides, what you have to think about is as life changes, so do our needs for a home. Small first homes are outgrown when kiddos come along. Large family homes eventually become burdensome once your kids have grown and gone. And a lot of times people in the military or college end up relocating every few years. So why marry your home when you could just date it instead? Colin Robertson comments on this. He says, if you're not looking for a serious commitment, why get involved with a 30-year fixed, especially one you have to pay a premium for? So if you're not marrying your home, what does that mean about your relationship with the rate? Well, for starters, don't close your mind to an adjustable rate mortgage or an ARM, okay? Bankrate explains that generally the initial interest rate is lower than that of a comparable fixed rate mortgage. Colin Robertson continues on why ARMs are a good idea. He says ARMs are mostly hybrids with long periods of fixed rate goodness, like a 5-1 ARM or a 7-1 ARM, meaning you can date your rate for a good amount of time before looking for a new rate. An adjustable rate mortgage might go up after it begins to adjust, or it might go down. The rate cap is a really important feature, okay? It controls how much your interest rate can adjust each year. If your interest rate was at 3% in January of last year, for example, and today's rates are well over 6%, your rate would still only adjust to 4%. That's the protection the rate cap offers and why it's so important. Up or down? I don't like this whole up part. Sounds a bit risky. Sure, you're sharing an amount of risk with the lender, but that's exactly why you got a lower rate. Now, a 2-1 buy down, we need to talk about that because that's a completely different animal, okay? It is definitely going to go up. This loan could be considered a little more risky, but it's also predetermined. A 2-1 buy down is a mortgage agreement that provides for a low interest rate for the first year of the loan, a somewhat higher rate for the second year, and then the full rate for the third and later years. It's a good choice for those who know their income will increase year over year, right? Ultimately, there are circumstances where adjustable rate mortgages make sense, but it should never be based on assuming the rates will adjust downward. So be open to different types of mortgages depending on your relationship with the house, but don't make decisions about your budget assuming rates will go down, okay? Because whether or not rates go down is not your decision to make. All right, moving on to lie number 2, your lender decides how much home you can afford. Now, this lie assumes your lender should decide how much money you can spend on a house. Financial professional or not, the lender will never take all aspects of your life into consideration when qualifying you for a home. This should always be your decision. Lenders base their qualification by what's shown on a credit report. Go Banking Rates explains that lenders look at how much debt you're responsible for on things like credit cards, car loans, and mortgages, but there are several other regular expenses that don't show up on your credit report, okay? We're talking things like groceries, gas for your car, and even childcare. Those can't be forgotten when deciding on your budget for a new home. And this is where it comes down to you. You, as a buyer, must have a carefully planned budget That also assumes certain expenses will increase after your home purchase. Keep in mind, property taxes are probably going to go up. Okay, you're going to have home maintenance and repairs, and your utility bills will go up if you've moved into a larger home. So in the end, don't let the lender or anyone else for that matter decide on your budget. Okay, this is your decision and yours alone. All right, next up is line number 3. But hey, before we do that, are you getting value from this video? If so, would you mind hitting that like button? Thank you for doing that. Okay, line number 3, real estate always goes up in value. This one is an especially dangerous lie because there's an element of truth in it, but it totally depends on your time frame. Over the years, real estate value has gone up. But if you're looking to sell only a season or 2 later, your value may not have gone up. In fact, it could have even dropped a bit at that point, depending on the market condition. As a whole, though, home values have appreciated nearly 4.6% per year over the last 65 years. Looking at the long haul, your home's value is likely to go up, but there may also be seasons in between where the value goes down. You need to understand that this is completely normal. Home price appreciation isn't a straight line up, okay? As you can see here from this graph, there are times where home prices go up and then the next year they go down, then they go back up. So even though the long-term trend for real estate is up, you have to make sure that you're buying for the right reasons and have that longer-term horizon so that you protect yourself against any pullbacks in the market. Now that you know the 3 lies, what's the one thing you should never do while buying a new home? Well, anything that involves credit. Guaranteed Rate explains that if you take on new debt, the whole loan application may need to be redone, or it could lead to the rejection of your application. But what about using credit when you're buying new construction? I've heard that can take months, if not up to a year. How am I supposed to handle that? Well, new construction is definitely a whole other ball of wax, and to get the answers to that question, you're definitely going to want to check out this video right here. In the meantime, Wendy out.